and gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where we talked about the alignment audit. Today, for episode number 424, we are going to talk about what is normal. Why what you think is normal probably isn't.
Right.
Because I don't know that there is a normal.
So picture someone who grew up in an environment on the ocean. That becomes their normal. Picture someone who grew up on a lake. I fortunately had a lake, small lake, big pond that I grew up on, and that was normal. And now when I don't live on the water, it is weird for me. Everyone has something they've been exposed to a lot more, and therefore that's become normal. And this can be good or bad. This can be right or wrong. It's you know, if you grew up in LA, you're going to have a very different normal than if you grew up in, you know, New England with snow. And I think what's important is to be hyper-conscious of the things you think are normal really aren't. And that's just one small slice of reality.
Oh, wow, that's nice. And in a weird way,
I just thought of pizza.
I actually have pizza. Straight up, I have pizza at home and cheese fries.
Nice.
Like tonight when I go home, I'm going in.
Every one of our listeners thinks you are fat.
I am fat. I was honest to God, I was looking at myself like, oh my God. You're just...
And I say that with love, by the way.
Yeah,
I know fat's a bad word.
It's all love. It's all love.
It's all love.
Now I don't know what I was saying, and you've wrecked the entire episode. So I think that not only... See how fast I can turn it around, man?
Yeah.
Jeez, it's unreal. Not only not knowing what normal is will jeff you in that regard, but also you'll think anything better than what you had is closer to normal.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Go deeper?
I always think about relationships.
Yeah.
If you've been treated terribly your whole life,
right,
and I can think of many people that I've had very, very specific conversations with, unfortunately,
right,
and most of them are women who have been treated badly, which angers me very much. I very strongly dislike that. But they'll get into a relationship after that and they'll be like, oh my God, it's amazing. And then when you're reflecting with them after, it wasn't that amazing. It was just better than what you're used to.
Exactly.
So imagine doing a job and making $10 an hour, doing the same job and making $15 an hour.
Right.
It's not that much better.
Right.
I mean, it is with the
but
money.
It seems like a lot better because of the contrast.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's, contrast does not mean what you had or have is normal.
I think this is interesting too, because imagine a child who's extremely, extremely spoiled. They always get whatever they want. They're constantly like, oh, movie tickets and whatever, just anything they want, they get. It creates a false reality because they're not hyper-conscious enough yet, because they're children, to realize that that's not how things work. Then when they leave the home and go off on their own, they have this false expectation of what's supposed to be. And then there's the opposite of that, which if you grew up with very little, I often talk, about how I'm really grateful that when my stepdad left, we struggled financially because I talk about how I got free lunch, for a time, and I got financial aid, fortunately, to go to school, and I won't go too deep into it, but I remember it helped me build character because, we went from having a pretty good, solid income during the 90s when the economy was really good to, they call the 2000s the lost decade because, the economy tanked basically in the early 2000s and 2009 as well. And so we went from having abundance financially to having very, very little. And it helped me build character. I used to have I remember I bought Dreamcast a month before Christmas.
Time Crisis, man. I came in your house, I played that. I was like, oh, this dude's got Dreamcast?
Dude, it was Dynamite Cop. Do you remember Dynamite Cop?
I remember it like it was
game
yesterday,
ever, man.
I was like, this dude is balling.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to be friends with him.
Yeah.
And I was for sure.
And you were, and
the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history. It's interesting going back.
It is.
But it helped me start to learn that you have to earn things, and it helped me appreciate the things that I wasn't really, awake to or hyperconscious to before.
Yeah, it's interesting because the only way to really get it is perspective, and I think the problem is most people get perspective from people's lives who aren't normal. It's almost like if you're watching the Kardashians and you think any of that is normal, none of it is.
Right.
In the total opposite end.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's almost like you have to decide and understand what felt normal to you. What is it actually, and again, I don't know how you quantify that, but what is it actually in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
And then what do you have to change? your perception, your behavior, your expectations. Like,
What do you have to learn?
yeah. And what do you have to kind of like reflect on with a higher level of awareness and say, God, that was kind of screwed up.
Right.
Or, wow, I had it really good then. Like I had it, that was the best relationship I was ever in. I didn't realize I screwed it up.
Well, you know that saying, sometimes pave the parking lot. No, wait. Paved paradise to put up a parking lot.
It's all you know, you need to know, but you don't know what you got
till it's gone.
Paved paradise. Oh,
Put up a parking lot. So you don't know what you've got till
little
it's
music
gone.
too. I mean, you get everything here.
Yeah, it's really strong work, Kev. I'm really grateful you knew the song, because otherwise no one would know what I'm talking about.
Is that Counting Crows, maybe?
I think so.
I'd play it, but I think that's illegal. I do. I don't think you're allowed to play copyrighted music on podcasts.
Okay, well, but you're allowed to sing it, though.
Well, yeah.
Strong work.
I know you probably can't tell the difference.
Strong work.
Yeah.
But the point I was making, just to go back to adding value for a minute,
yes,
instead of your singing,
that's good.
Is that you don't know what you've got till it's gone. And sometimes we've all had those. For me, I'm hindsight's 2020. You look back and it's like, I remember when, an abundance of wealth was normal. And then I remember what it's like when an abundance of wealth was not normal.
Yeah.
And scarcity became normal. The question is, and I'm fortunate, I believe that living on both ends of that made me a better man, which I'm super grateful for. But that's the thing. You got to get outside of your existing environment in order to understand it. Ooh, interesting.
Write it down.
You have to get outside of your existing environment in order to truly understand it. And I think life is this dance between explore, and then refocus. But the refocus needs to be the normal you want.
Fire. That was very well said.
Thank you, man.
Very well said.
I think it was your singing that really
I honestly
ignited
think
it.
If you take nothing from this episode, replay the part where I sung that song. Because, damn, buttery voice.
Funny episodes this week.
Yeah. So we record all of our episodes on Monday. So this is the same Jeff and Jeff that you got on Wednesday's episode. So I wanted to see if you spit out your drink if I waited. Okay.
I almost did.
For you.
Yeah.
When you're coaching,
Right.
you and I both coach people.
Oh, yeah. Consulting.
Consulting, whatever you need, really, we'll do it. What are some common things that people think are normal that aren't?
Oh.
From your understanding of what normal is.
Exactly, right. And I think that's a cool part about coaching is that you start to see everyone else's normals, so then you actually get this bird's eye view of what actually is normal.
Yeah.
And life is a bell curve, right? So if you look at, the most successful restaurant in the history of the world, it's McDonald's. If you look at the most successful, drink company, it's Coca-Cola, right? So normal doesn't mean good, by the way. And normal doesn't, it's often not, normal almost in a way means not extraordinary. So, but to answer your original question here, we have a bird's eye view of people's lives because our job is to study human beings. Like, I often say this to my clients, your job as my client is to work in your life. Our job on these calls is to work on your life. And so we get this bird's eye perspective of people's lives. And I've noticed certain people, it's normal to make, $5,000 a month. That's totally normal. Other people, I have a mentor who it's normal to make $1 million a year. And that's his normal. Anything lower than that, and he's frustrated. And that's okay. Just like it's normal for us to be at this level of in shape. I think it's important to understand what your normal is versus what the actual bell curve statistic normal is.
But how do you for me, I always go back to relationships because I think that's where people get confused the most.
Yeah.
Because if you saw a relationship growing up, your mom and your dad were yelling at each other or they were super in love. Okay. If you didn't have a dad, right? Like if you grew up without a father like Alan or myself, what is that like? If you grew up without a mom, what is that like? Like, none of it is normal. Normal is what you make. Really. I don't know that there is a normal. The only reason there's an average is because there's extremes.
Yeah. So like the average life expectancy is 73 years old in America.
Right.
If you didn't understand that, you might live each day as if it might be your last. Like never save or never invest because it's like I could die tomorrow. Yeah. Or someone told me, I remember saying like smoking's bad for you. Like why are you still smoking? And they're like, well, I'm going to die eventually anyway. And it's like, well, that's a very dumb argument because statistically you're going to live, far beyond your current age. So I think it's important to understand the statistic normal. the mathematical normal, versus the normal you want. Because otherwise you're not choosing. That's the thing that's fascinating. Let's say you grew up in a really, really lower class family. And I'm not judging that at all in any regard, because I sort of did too, right? But if that's normal and that's all you ever know, you'll never be exposed to the inspiring things that are possible. Right. And I was very fortunate to go to college at WPI, where it was honestly normal for me to be the smart kid. It was very like known and normal in Uxbridge. Like I got straight A's, right? And you went to high school, so you knew that of me. Okay.
I did.
Just like it was normal for you to be an all-star baseball player. That was normal. I went to WPI, man, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not that smart at all. At WPI, it is normal to be a genius. It's normal to be brilliant. It's normal to know physics and differential equations and integral calculus. Like, that's literally normal. It would be weird not to know that stuff. And that's kind of what I'm really grateful for, is that every single phase of my life I've gone and explored, and I've really started to understand now where I want to fit. This is kind of the breakthrough here. If you don't explore other people's normal, you'll never be able to hyper-consciously decide your own.
Yeah, and I think you get to decide what it is, and then you can work at it every day. Like, what you do right now is probably normal.
Right.
If you wake up and go to a job you dislike, it's probably normal. If you wake up and think of it this way, COVID, new normal. Like, that's the saying that's getting thrown around. Like, this
Wearing
is the
masks
new normal.
is the new normal.
Right?
Yeah.
Why? It's because it's, number one, what everybody is supposed to be doing, but it's what you're doing. It's accepted.
Right.
It's accepted. So for Alan and I, and this isn't about us, right? But like, think of it. This studio is now normal. We've had the studio for 2 months.
I know.
So this is also the other end of normalcy. You start to take things for granted.
Yeah.
If it's normal to get in your car and drive, okay. If it's normal to get a $2,000 check every week, you get used to it. So I would say try to elevate your normal.
Oh, that's fire.
Well, I mean, and we talked about Matt, like, make this normal.
Yeah.
Right?
That's fire.
And make this normal.
Try
and then
to
elevate
your normal.
Elevate it.
Yeah,
because it can be, like, if having an okay relationship is normal, that means you're capable of it. Okay, cool. Now let's try to make it extraordinary. What would that take? What would it take to boost your bank account? Like, okay, you've saved. You grow up in a family that is financially adverse, right? I did not have a lot of money growing up. My grandmother was always worried about how we were going to pay rent. Like, I'll never forget that. That's ingrained in me in some degree. But that was normal for me. Okay, then 26-year-old Kevin is making $100 an hour. That became normal to me. Like, you made a lot of money. Like, I had checks I just didn't cash because I didn't have to. I was like, I'll cash this when I get a chance. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, then leave that behind. And then the entrepreneur game, it's normal to say, like, oh, geez, I don't have any money.
Right.
Like, but it's normal to say, well, I know I will eventually now.
Yeah.
Right? Or now having more money than I did. Or now making more money and getting new clients and learning more. Like, normal is subjective, but it's also sliding. It's a sliding scale.
I was having a conversation this past weekend, Kev.
That's me?
Yeah. Jeff. And
who's Kev?
Some guy.
If you just started listening to this podcast, my name is Kevin. This is Alan. We call each other Jeff because I pulled up to the driveway one day. I said, I am Jeff instead of I am here. It just stuck.
Yeah. Autocorrect made that happen.
Lifesaver.
And I said, I am also Jeff.
Yes.
Okay. So
now that we're caught
I was talking to, now that we're caught up, I was talking to someone this past weekend at my mom's 60th birthday. And they said, do you remember, I think he actually said, you're probably too young to remember, but he didn't know I'm actually 31.
31 years old.
31 years old.
Young,
I just
31 years young.
Look 12. Yes, exactly. And he said, back in my day, not wearing your seatbelt wasn't a law. So you literally could not wear a seatbelt and you could never get pulled over for that.
Yeah, man. 60s. A lot of cars didn't even have seatbelts.
Right.
I think it was in the 60s.
It became a law, I think, in the late 90s to wear a seatbelt, I believe. Okay. But he said that when that happened, people were in an uproar.
Late 90s?
Yeah, man. I think so.
Not a chance.
I'm telling you.
You were 10 years old when it became a law that you had to wear seatbelts? I
think so.
No.
I'm telling you, we're going to look that up. Let's look that up. Can we?
Yeah, we're going to look it up.
We got 9 minutes left on this
in
episode.
Massachusetts or in the state? In the country?
Let's just do Massachusetts.
Problem is I'm on airplane mode, so let me just real quick.
Okay. But anyways, so at one point, it was normal not to wear a seatbelt. But statistically, people were dying, and they eventually made it a law. And he was telling me that people were in an uproar. Like, oh, you're getting rid of my civil rights. Like, you can't tell me to wear a seatbelt, like all that stuff.
1986.
1986. You were right.
November 1986, the Massachusetts mandatory seatbelt.
I wasn't even born yet, man. But at one point, think about this. It was normal to not wear a seatbelt.
Oh, hold on now.
Now it's normal to be pulled over if you're not wearing your seatbelt.
I believe it was in 1983, actually, but it was. Alan was wrong.
I really did think it was late 90s. Okay. At one point, it was normal to smoke cigarettes on an airplane.
That blows my mind.
Isn't that crazy?
Blows my mind.
Right. This is the thing. God. I think if you want to be hyper-conscious, which all of us do, you have to kind of realize that nothing that is right now is actually normal, because
right.
At one point it wasn't.
Normal is based on circumstance
and perception.
Yeah.
And what has become normal, that doesn't mean it has to be.
I always use the analogy of 9/11. Like, the day before 9/11, you could get on a plane with a knife or a razor blade. The day after, I believe, yeah.
Wow.
I'm 90. They had box cutters because they were legal.
Right.
So
that's right.
So then the new normal. Now, like, security is so strong.
Yeah.
And strict, because that is the new normal.
Just like in football, man, like you used to have hardly any pads.
Yeah.
If you watch football way back and people were getting injured.
Normal comes from change, I think.
Yeah.
And then what happens is when there's enough pain, you have to make a new normal.
You have to make a new change.
They say, like, don't if it's not broke, don't fix it. When do people fix things? When it's really broken.
Dude, can you imagine the first time cigarettes were created and no one had known that they were bad for you?
My grandmother.
Yeah,
my grandmother's like 80. I should probably know this, but I think she's in her early to mid 80s.
When she started smoking,
she had no idea.
She had no idea that they were dangerous.
I think she started when she was like 14. No idea.
Because the adverse effects don't happen until at least a decade.
It's wild.
And it is wild. And what I always think to myself, like, you've heard me say this, where are we still putting leeches on us to, like, bloodletting to heal ourselves? Like, where are we still that ignorant, right? And I think hyperconsciousness is realizing that there is kind of no end-all, be-all normal. There's only the normal you decide in advance to create.
And yeah, if what you want isn't good enough for you to be, for it to be that, we've said normal so many times, it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. You know how that happens?
Yeah.
God.
Normal.
End the episode. So if what you have in your life, you're deciding that's not enough. That's not, I don't want $50,000. I don't want a relationship that's not fulfilling. I don't want a body that I'm not proud of, whatever. Decide to elevate your normal.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to make this. I want to do this. I want to look like this. I want to accomplish this. I want to meet this. That's all you got to do. And then you got to figure out how to lock that in. Right. That's it. But it's weird. It's weird.
Doesn't Bill Gates make like $11,000 an hour?
I don't know.
Like
Bezos makes way more than Bill Gates.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like that's kind of normal to them.
Yeah.
It's just mind-blowing. But they've also elevated to, like, it's not like they started there.
Right.
You know, Bezos at 20 wasn't like, oh,
they made everything normal
along the way.
And then they elevated.
Yeah. Elevate your new normal. That's
elevate your normal.
That's really powerful.
Maybe we should name the episode that.
Yeah, I'd like that.
You think we should? If you're listening to this, we just did that live.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, I have an answer.
Okay. What is something that at one point was normal for you? Normal. I'm just saying the word a bunch. That is no longer. And then also, what is something you want to make normal that isn't yet?
What is something that used to be normal that now I don't do? Is that a question?
What is something that used to be a normal for you that now is not?
Oh, man. Just wasting time. just wasting time. I remember at my job, there was literally, like, we would get X amount of time to do certain jobs. And I very rarely did this because I was very much a company man. But towards the end, when I just kind of like called it quits, we would be like in a gym and we'd be like working up high on these lifts. And they would give us like X amount to do the job. And we could have done it in like a quarter of the time. So sometimes we would just kind of hang out, just like waste time because it didn't matter.
Right.
I don't really, now my time is intentional. Like if I'm investing time in rest, it's
When was the
intentional.
last time you did that?
Wasted time?
Yeah.
Instagram, I do it. Not like I did,
Yeah.
but but this is the thing. right now it's normal for me to get lost in the sauce, as we say.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to improve that every single day.
Same.
Yeah. It's hard. So that's what it's made for.
Opposite question. So what do you want to be a new normal that you're working on right now?
What do I want to be a new normal that I'm working on right now? I mean, I would say the podcast business.
Yeah. We set a goal for 10,000 cash flow a month between the two of us for the Hyperconscious podcast. And it's actually on the whiteboard, but that's something we're trying to elevate our new normal.
Yeah.
And we're going to do good things with that money.
Yeah, of course. And our behaviors have to match that. Right?
Exactly.
We were talking before this, we were talking about like, okay, I have to figure out how to scale this. I have to hire somebody to do this. I have to delegate more of this so I can make more space for actual clients and free calls and all of that happy jazz. I want this to be normal forever in terms of continuously elevating this. Like eventually we're going to be in a bigger studio. Like I already have thoughts of that. We're going to be back on the road speaking, when this is all.
I'm really looking forward to that.
I am too.
I've been itching for the travel, honestly.
I am too.
I've been missing new cultures, new people, new things. Yeah.
New cultures in Florida.
Yeah.
Florida, United States.
New normals, yeah. We'll travel all over the world.
Yes.
That's what we want to be normal, yeah.
My challenge to you is figure out what used to be normal, figure out what is normal now, and figure out what you want your new normal to be. Because wherever you decide, I have to just keep saying it, wherever you decide normal is, that's where you're going to end up. And if you decide it's enough, you're going to stop.
Right.
You're going to stop there. Right? Like, that's my challenge. And I know this is kind of like it's an interesting, like, simple episode, but also very deep in terms of, like, there's a lot of layers of what people accept. You accept something because it's normal. Right? Men, it's normal I could just take my shirt off right now. And YouTube would be like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, whatever, man. You like, podcast with your shirt off? Cool, good for you.
Right.
But if you're a woman, you take your shirt off, they're like, no, how dare you? Look at what you've done.
I know.
One thing is accepted, one thing's not.
One thing is normal, one thing's not.
Yeah, normal.
And I think this all comes down to exposure therapy as well. Like, we talked about this in the preamble a little bit. If you grew up around the fitness industry in America in the last, 15 years, it's normal to have an Instagram where you have your shirt off a lot. Whereas in some cultures, that is like completely and utterly not normal.
And the opposite. In some cultures, they're naked all the time.
Right.
And it's just
And
normal.
some cultures, they're covered up, everything but their eyes.
Yeah.
And it's like, it really comes down to understanding both ends of that extreme spectrum and then deciding in advance where you want to land.
I think at some point, you don't have a choice. I think that's what happens. You're forced to feel a-normal, and then you get to decide whether or not you want to change it. Like if you
or keep it, yeah.
Yeah, if growing up you were in an abusive family, you might think abuse is normal. You might get into an abusive relationship. You might marry that person and have kids with them, and that's your normal for 20 years, however long it is, until maybe either somebody comes and tells you, hey, that's not normal, or something happens. I don't know. And obviously I'm using this as an example just because it's something that I've seen.
Emilia's writing a book called Breaking the Cycle. She, in our check-in last night, was so grateful. She's like, I'm so blown away by you because you've broken so many cycles. You've broken the cycle. Like you, and we all have one. We all, generationally, we all grew up in a certain type of environment with a certain type of family with certain type of attributes and certain normals. But the moment you decide, I'm going to elevate mine, that's when you break the cycle. That's fire.
This
is fire.
This was fire. I'm glad we did this episode.
Me too, man.
I hope we added some value. I know a lot of it was contemplative, but if we're thinking, our goal is to get you guys thinking and asking yourself and answering. What are you smiling about?
Our goal is to say normal 6,000
I think we said it 7,000 times. If you are thinking of it, ask yourself the question and then answer it. What is normal in your life that you don't want to be?
And then what's a new normal you want to elevate to?
Yes.
Fire?
All right.
I have to pee.
You have to pee. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed. If you want one-on-one peak performance coaching, Alan is doing free 30-minute calls. If you want to grow, start, scale, monetize, know more about podcasting, how to be a better interviewer, all that happy jazz, I'm doing free 30-minute calls as well. And also every single Monday, until the world ends.
Forever.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Alan and I are doing live masterminds. So today is Wednesday. No, sorry. If you're listening to this, it's Friday. What is our next mastermind? We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
We're jeffing.
Yeah. To be determined.
TBD. All right. So my challenge: figure out what your normal is. Figure out how to make your new normal better, and break free of your limiting beliefs that are attached to what normal is for you.
Reach out to Kevin or myself on Instagram. Instagram's the best networking tool ever.
For
It's
sure.
amazing. Building relationships. Change networking with building relationships. But anyways, so I'm at alazarus88, ALAZAROS 88, and Kevin is at Never Quit Kid, and he is showing the camera his tattoo of Never Quit, the Sometimes Quits Kid. Just joking. It's at, I'm kidding. At Never Quit Kid. Reach out to us, seriously. If you want a specific topic or want to ask us any questions, let us help you.
You good?
Yeah, it was a really good plug.
All right, well, I don't expect any of you guys will reach out after that. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed. Much love. We will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.